OpenAI is launching a new subscription tier for ChatGPT, and this is specifically for teams. It's called ChatGPT Team, and it provides a dedicated workspace for up to 149 people to use ChatGPT. It also includes a bunch of features to manage that team within your ChatGPT instance. So, some of the features that come with this new license tier include things like it comes with GPT-4 access with that 32K context window. It has DALL-E 3 for image generation. You get access to advanced data analysis capabilities. You get access to browsing. So your team license of ChatGPT can actually find up-to-date information on the web. You get image and voice input and output, as well as the ability to create customized GPTs and share those GPTs within your workspace. Now, there are also a couple of kind of admin features that are really helpful for anyone who is managing 149 or fewer people with one of these licenses. There's an admin console, a dedicated workspace, bulk member management, and you can give people different admin roles based on their role in your organization or on your team. Now, this last part is what's getting the attention of a lot of business owners and professionals. OpenAI claims that as part of team licenses, it will not train models on team data or on your conversations. The ChatGPT team license costs $30 per user per month, or $25 per user per month if you bill it annually. This is a tiny bit more expensive than ChatGPT Plus and less expensive than the current ChatGPT Enterprise license. So, Paul, first up, how do you see this kind of licensing tier and these capabilities affecting small and medium-sized businesses that either already use ChatGPT or have considered dipping their toe in the water with AI?
Yeah, I think first, we knew this was coming. We just didn't know when. When they launched ChatGPT Enterprise, they did say that there would be a self-service option in the near future. And it just ends up, it was, I guess, a couple months wait or so. So we kind of assumed these would happen. I know there are some people like Allie Miller on LinkedIn, I think, was talking about how her team has had this for like 30 days or something. So I know people have kind of beta testing this as well. The enterprise has this actually just came out in a Bloomberg article yesterday. I saw this, so we'll put that link in the show notes. ChatGPT Enterprise has 260 companies that are customers, totaling 150,000 registered users at $30 per user per month. That's about 4.5 million in MRR. So give you a sense of what adoption has been like there, or at least what the selling of the technology doesn't necessarily mean the adoption within the enterprises has been that high. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a massive increase in adoption, like companies that are adding these AI writing platforms through this. So I think it's going to create a rather interesting dynamic in the marketplace for people who are maybe paying for like Jasper, Writer, Grammarly. Like it all of a sudden brings ChatGPT to the masses. We're a 7-person team. I upgraded instantly, and the way it works, it's kind of seamless. I was in my personal ChatGPT Plus account, so I already have a paid account. There's an option like upgrade from here, and you just click, you upgrade, you agree to, you want a monthly plan or an annual plan. I think it's 25 per user per month if you pay in advance for everybody, and then you just put the URLs or the email addresses of the people you want to invite into it. So they make it really simple, and then it actually created a separate workspace. So now when I log into ChatGPT, I see my personal workspace, which I can click into, or I can click into my team workspace, where in theory all of us will be collaborating. So I think that it's a lot of companies that were sitting on the sidelines that couldn't get ChatGPT Enterprise because you needed 150 licenses, I think was the minimum. You can now instantly go and get for $30 per user per month ChatGPT. Now we'll get into some of the other ramifications here, but like the big challenge is going to be nobody has a plan. Like nobody actually knows how to onboard this, and they don't provide any documentation. Like in standard OpenAI fashion, there's nothing telling you how to use this. There's literally no guides, no onboarding, anything. So we're going to be scrambling as companies to try and figure this out. I'm sure a whole service industry is going to build around this kind of thing. But yeah, so that was kind of my initial look at it when we signed up for it ourselves.
Yeah, that leads right into my first kind of big question about this is, are businesses ready for this? Because we know from data we've seen year in, year out, and our own, on the ground evidence that many companies are still really behind on basic AI education and training.
Yeah, not even close. I mean, no, nobody's ready for it. Like there's a lot of organizations that have been testing things and using different tools, but to like if you have a marketing team of 5 or 10 or 50 or 500, you now have all of these capabilities. You can go in and train your own GPTs. You can go in and you know apply this stuff across all these key use cases, but there's nothing really guiding you how to do that, and there aren't change management plans in place. Like even for our team of 7, as I was signing us up, I was like, oh, do I really need 7 licenses yet? Like I don't have time over the next 30 days to properly establish workflows and processes for the company and to guide everyone how to use this. So in essence, I'm just like turning it on and paying $30 a month, and we may have licenses sit there and not even be utilized by some members of the team because we have no internal systems. We obviously are probably more capable than many smaller organizations to put those workflows and processes in place, given what we do for a living. But even then I sit there and look, it's like, wow, I don't have time. It's like 30 days out, maybe I could do that. So maybe I'll just turn it on for like me, Mike, and Kathy initially, and we'll start experimenting and keep a journal of like how we're using it, but like more just experimentation than integrating this into our workflows. So I think there's just a lot of it's going to accelerate companies that go buy tools and platforms, but it's also going to accelerate an ecosystem of education, training, and services to make this possible. So I mean, I go back again to our early days when I was, when I owned PR 2020, and you and I were working there together when we were doing this for HubSpot. HubSpot we were their first partner back in 2007. And part of the goal of building out the agency ecosystem at that time was to help HubSpot customers get value out of the platform. And so I don't see OpenAI building that kind of partner program in the near term. They're very focused on developers, not on like service companies, but it almost needs it. Like if they really want to scale ChatGPT Team to hundreds of thousands of users or millions of users, which I would imagine they envision as possible, they're probably going to need an ecosystem of certified partners who can go in. So if I'm a team of like 50 marketers and I go get this, who helps me do it? Who's going to help me implement this? And so if you have like certified partners, agencies, people like that, you can go to and say, okay, can you help us set up and onboard with this? Help us create our first GPTs, help us develop our workflows. You're going to need an ecosystem of those people, and that does not exist yet. And again, we talk with a lot of agencies. I think this is going back to opportunities for marketing agencies. This would be a service area I would seriously look at to start like implementing some support here, because there's gonna be a lot of companies that need guidance on how to do this the right way.
So how does the release of ChatGPT Team change the competitive landscape in AI? Like what happens with the offerings that Google and Microsoft, as being AI leaders, are rolling out in their existing apps? But also importantly, what happens to these third-party AI tools that are competing for this segment of customers?
I think it gets a lot harder to differentiate. Like I would guess those third parties have to really lean into the things that make them unique that OpenAI doesn't have. But you also probably have to build a matrix of like, well, what are the things that differentiate us today that they could easily add? So it's different right now, like say brand style guidelines. Like they don't have a standard to do it, but what's stopping someone from building a GPT to build brand style guidelines and just train everything on that? So I think those companies have to seriously think about what is defensible within their current offering or their future product roadmap. But as a buyer, I can tell you, like, we pay for some of those other tools, and I bought this the second it was available in my platform. And I will probably dedicate more company resources to evaluating ChatGPT Team extensively because of all the capabilities that are built in and the things we're familiar with. as more of a, well, can this become the primary tool?
Mm,
But again, like I don't think there's an answer to that. And what you really need in your company is a culture and a system of experimentation. So the way Mike and I would do something like this, and the way we've been doing this is, okay, we need to transcribe the podcast and we need to do a summarization of the transcription. And so Mike, which like what are we using now? We use Descript, we've used Claude, we've used GPT-4.
yep.
I don't know if there's any other ones we've tried, but I don't know at any point in the next at least 12 months we're going to say, okay, cool, like ChatGPT is it. Like we don't need any of these other tools anymore
Mm,
because it's this game of like constantly one upping each other. And so there's still a chance, I think, that by March or April, Google Bard is going to be phenomenal. Like once Gemini gets really built in and they fine tune Gemini and get it working better, I'm not going to stop testing Gemini and Google. We're not going to stop playing around with Anthropic. We're not going to, I think we use Writer and Jasper. I think we have licenses for both of them, and we play around with these tools all the time. And so I think that that's probably what a lot of organizations need to do is have a system to regularly experiment with your core use cases. So if it's summarization and transcription and drafting and outlining and whatever those key things you're doing are, customer support messaging, have a system where every 3 months you're taking like the 3 or 4 or 5 potential partners there and you're constantly reevaluating. Like if an improvement has been made in Google, let's go try Google again for this use case, because my guess is it's going to be a moving target. That all being said, GPT-4 is still the most powerful model in the world,
mm.
and it's a safer bet to just kind of assume that that's probably going to be best in most use cases. So again, I like a lot of these companies in the space, but I think given OpenAI's reputation and the tools that they've built so far, like I think a lot of companies are going to go with ChatGPT as their primary platform.
Yeah, and I would argue it's probably more beneficial for many companies to be exploring and expanding use cases versus getting too caught up on, oh, which tool should we use over another? Because if you find even a handful of use cases that you can do reasonably well, suddenly it doesn't matter that you're spending $100 a month on possibly overlapping technology because you've saved so much time already, so much budget already, even for small stuff. So definitely agree with that point that focus on the use case first and test out different tools regularly to
Well, and
achieve each one.
how do you think about it? Because again, like I'm the CEO, I see this, I go buy it. Like I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, I control the budget, so it's like fine, cool, yeah, 7 licenses a month, $210 a month, whatever. But then you, as the chief content officer, get an alert saying you've been invited to the Marketing AI Institute ChatGPT Team workspace. It's like, okay, like what am I supposed to do with that? Like I'm already using Claude, I'm already using Descript,
Right,
and so I almost
right.
wonder like how marketers are going to feel like, again, we didn't stop and say, hey, we're going to spend the next 30 days figuring out how to use this and then we're going to slowly onboard. It's like, no, we live in a world of like, all right, let's just get it, let's try it. It's just $30 per user, like whatever, we'll learn something if nothing else for the next few
Mhm.
months. So I mean, how, when you see a tool like this emerge, do you think about your own workflows and like do you start to say, all right, well, let me, next week I'll start testing this? Like how are you thinking about it?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. So one, I suspect based on my encounters doing talks and doing workshops with some of these organizations trying to apply this technology, that there are a lot of people in isolation using these tools, whether they're allowed to or not. We know that they're already starting to use them. They're probably using them in their work, even if they're not allowed to. So I think the team license, when I get that notification, on one hand, it's very positive. And I say, okay, if I'm at an enterprise, I say, oh, great. Okay. Or rather a smaller team with this license. I say, great. Our company is leaning into AI and embracing ChatGPT. I can't wait to not have to pay for this myself or to get access to features beyond the free version. Awesome. But the now what question is a pretty big one because I think this could be chaos if you
Yeah.
turn this on without rolling it out. It's fine at our organization because we're all doing all this anyway. We're just unifying what we're doing. And we do need more of, say, a formal process around it, maybe for some of the newer people that haven't been using the technology as much in our particular business. But if you're an organization that's like 50 people you add to this and you haven't used much of this before, I think you need a rollout plan.
In education. Like I just think about
Education.
if you don't have the generative AI policies in place, they don't know what they're allowed to put in there and not.
Hmm.
They probably don't know how to use GPTs or even some cases what a GPT is. They don't know what the GPT store is, which we'll talk about next. Like they have no concept of a lot of these things. And it's like, oh, okay, like I can go in and write some emails and draft some articles and create some outlines and things like that. But they don't know what advanced data analysis is. Like, what do we do with there? Can I drop last
Right.
month's performance data in there and see what happens? Like, is the data safe? Is the CIO going to show up and say, "What are you doing? You just gave these people access to this, and now they can put
Hmm.
whatever they want in there." So yeah, I think that at the end of the day, our main focus is AI literacy. Like everything we think about, like the North Star of what we're trying to do is we believe that literacy is essential in every organization, that people have to understand the fundamentals of AI, but they also have to be educated on the tools themselves, how to use them, what is safe use, responsible use, what fits within the policies and guidelines of the organization. And that's the thing where we know from our own research that the vast majority of companies have no AI education and training in place. I don't
Yep.
remember what the number was, but it was like somewhere around like 70% have nothing, not even started working on training.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing for me that we really need to move forward as an industry, as a business world, is AI literacy.